There's 190 manufacturing operations in Oklahoma. Well, I met with 6 of them and I was like, why are you competing on employee benefits? Because they'll say, well, I don't want to help that guy reduce his expenses. And I'm like, well, but you drive a car and he drives a car to work. You get gas from ONG, Oklahoma Natural Gas. You get electricity from AEP. Do you care that the other orthopedic surgeon gets his electricity from AEP? Like, I think the next stage of American capitalism includes co-opetition.
Thanks for tuning in to the Self-Funded with Spencer podcast. Let's go make healthcare better together.
One of the things that I love most about social media, and I'm talking about your account, which I've followed now for a long time, or any of these great people that we all, like our mutual friends on LinkedIn, one of the things I love the most is no one can say to us, you haven't consistently said these things over a long time. Because people ask me, well, where did you come from? And I'm like, why don't you look at my social media? Because I've been saying the same things. I've been saying nonprofit health systems take advantage of CMS's fee schedule for arbitrage purposes, and that's how they buy up physician practices. That's bad for us as patients, as employers, it's bad for us, because now we went from paying $1 for something to paying $4 for something, right? And that's CMS, like that's them, that's the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. I've been saying site-neutral payments are good. Whether we take in-office procedures and ambulatory surgery procedures and we pay them more or we pay the hospital outpatient departments less, I do not care. But what I want is if I do the work, I get the same pay. This is capitalism 101. Right. And whoever's lobbying, right, whoever it might be, and the more time I spend in D.C., the more confused I become, because I used to think, oh, well, it's just the bukas. And then I was like, oh, it's device too. Oh, it's the drug makers too. Oh, it's, and then it's even people that I think are on my team. It's everybody. But the beauty of social media is that no one can say to us, well, you only adopted that position, Spencer, because you're now getting a sponsor from this guy.
Yeah.
Right? We deal with that in our podcast. People will be like, were you biased? Because like it'll be somebody on Twitter, right? Generally with 9 followers, and it's August of 2025. And I don't pay attention to any of that. I just answer.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, well, Dutch, you only like that because, you know, one of your podcasts is sponsored by them. And I'm like, no, I don't care at all.
No, there's no origin story that exists of I deleted all my old posts where I was pro fully insured. Fortunately, the origin story of me is it was stop loss videos, right, on a whiteboard. And for the last 6 years almost, it's been around this. Now, I've evolved in my understanding of the complexity of healthcare. I'll be very clear about that. But it's still always predicated. I think most things are solvable if at the starting point an employer is self-funded. Doesn't mean it fixes it just because you go self-funded. It enables the possibility to really uncover where all these things are hidden, the arbitrage opportunities, whatever you want to call them. You can't do that if everything's shrouded in mystery in a little black box of being fully insured. That's just the basic thesis I have. I don't have all the answers if reference-based pricing is better than direct contracting is better than tiered network structures, et cetera, et cetera. I think that comes down to an individual use case or risk tolerance and appetite for change, all those things. I'm not going to make a judgment necessarily on those, but I wanted to talk about the enabling factor, which is to be self-funded most of the time.
One of the things that I've been considering about self-funding now for a while is I love going from fully insured to self-funded. Right? And I love the idea of coming down on lives, depending on their risk tolerance, right? The other thing that we've been working on now for, I guess, almost coming up on a year, is how do you structurally change that? Okay. In other words, like, what's the next iteration? So one of the things I've been working on is after we sold our last company in Q3 of 22, I worked for that company for about 6 months, and then I traveled the country for the better part of a year. And all I did, since 1997, right, my market has been ambulatory surgery centers, physician-owned hospitals, independent practices. I kind of put them into those 3 buckets. Okay. Now, they usually correlate somewhat, but sometimes they don't. And so I went to see a bunch of those guys. And I wish I could have taken, I wish I'd have had the money at the time to take a bunch of my LinkedIn and X friends with me, because it would have made for this is really good feedback for all of us that support these businesses. Yep. And what I found out was amazing. So a guy that owns ownership in an ASC that has a management company, and let's say they manage 10 of them, right? So we would meet with a management company and the individual docs. We'd have these long conversations. And they were, I literally was like, I'm an entrepreneur who's worked with Dr. Smith for the last 9 years. In 2 of our companies, he's been a client. All I want to do is have a conversation. Totally innocuous. Like, I'm not trying to get anything out of this.
Yeah.
And what I found was most independent practices didn't work together. So you and I will run a business, and all of a sudden we're saying like, well, what podcast mics are you using? Like, I'm still using the Rode mic. How's that work? Like, maybe that's good for mobile, but in studio, that's not working so well. Or do your guests ever use earpods? Well, that's a bad idea because the audio stinks. It's great for a phone call, bad for a podcast. So what I found was when I asked them questions like, hey, what do you do on your property and casualty? You're a physician-owned hospital. You have 250,000 square feet of property, and you're in Florida. Did you call the guy in Georgia and say, like, how much are you paying? Well, the answer was no. Like, so I interviewed 71 total former clients where I actually did like, what are your chief business complaints? Not one of them out of the 71 worked with another one to like sort out their problem.
Really?
So you and I have been around benefits for a long time. And so I was like, well, what do you do for employee benefits? So they're like, oh, this guy goes to my church is what I usually heard. Or this guy goes to my golf club.
Yeah.
Right? Or he's a college friend. Those are the 3, like those are the 3 big ones everybody knows. Well, I was like, well, hey, why don't you work with Peter at this surgery center, right? He's an owner. And why don't you guys, because you co-own the surgery center together, like there's generally a practice in an ASC, because they're all individually owned shares in the ambulatory surgery center. So you have 8 practices in one surgery center. You might have 10 or 12, but they're all fighting for OR time in the operating room, right? And so we said to them collectively, like, well, would you guys want to do your benefits together? Right? And then the journey for me was, well, that's a PEO. And I was like, no offense to PEO guys, but I was like, that really doesn't solve my problem.
Right.
Because now they're just individually underwritten. I'm like, no, I want something that's like an association plan, but we can't get those passed. And then we have the MIWA problem. And I was like, how do we then establish a relationship between an employer and employee? How do we do that? Well, that took another year and it took like 15 months to figure out, and too many legal bills, right?
Yeah.
But we finally figured that out. So what I said was, okay, if you're in X state, for the purposes of employee benefits, payroll, and retirement, if you guys work under this TIN, we can do this. So now I can have an ASC or a physician-owned hospital that's tied to a ton of practices, and I can put them in one group. So what that does is it lowers their expenses. Obviously, in risk, the more you have, generally speaking, the less you have to contribute. But some of the interesting part, I guess, is one, like the rest of the world, physicians didn't understand self-funding. They didn't understand risk transfer. Like you'd say the word captive and they would look at you like, what did you just say to me?
Yeah.
And then now you're explaining it to them and they're going, holy smokes, no one's ever told me that, right? I'm a 57-year-old knee surgeon. How come no one ever told me the difference between an expense and an asset? And of course, you know that like the back of your hand, but you have to remember, like these guys went to med school. They studied and worked in the hospital, presumably, until they were probably 35 or 36. Then they got into a practice or they went to work at a health system. And maybe then they went on their own. So now ostensibly they're 43 or 44. And now they're going like, I don't know how any of this works. Right. And then they have a distrust of business people. And then it's like, well, but my fraternity brother, he knows best. And I'm like, well, generally speaking, I wouldn't want you to change that. What I want to help you change, Doc, is not brokers or consultants. I don't care. What I want to help you change is what's the strategy to keep you independent. So in 2015, as you know, we had 75% of all 2010, 75% of all physicians work for private practice. Today, it's less than 25%. There's a great study that just came out. A dermatologist gave it to me. And it said 12% of independent practices in the United States have no outside capital partner.
Only 12?
Only 12.
Wow. So
no joint ventures with a big health system and no private equity. I mean, that's 218,000 doctors that used to be on their own and today work for somebody.
Yep.
That's not good for any of our employer clients. It's not good for, it's not good for patients.
Having spent years working alongside healthcare leaders, brokers, and employers, I know how overwhelming healthcare can feel for our customers. We've all been there. Those renewal conversations that never seem to get easier. Rising pharmacy costs and medical costs, and no real transparency into where healthcare dollars are going. That's why I'm excited about Nomi Health. They're not just fixing the old system. They've rebuilt self-funded benefits from the ground up. With Nomi's network, you can offer something truly different. No copays, no deductibles, zero out-of-pocket costs when members see a provider. It's the kind of benefit that makes everyone ask, why hasn't healthcare always worked this way? Ready to bring your clients something different? Visit nomihealth.com and see how Nomi is rebuilding healthcare, one employer and one community at a time. Was that mostly a product of the ACA, or why do you think there's such a dramatic shift in the number of physicians that were no longer independent? Like what caused that kind of cascade effect in your mind?
The ACA was certainly a pillar in that. Let's say there's 4 or 5 different structural pillars. The biggest piece of that is that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid have, over the last 28 years, and I've done a bunch of articles on this, have lowered the professional fee schedule and increased the facility fee schedule. And then on a horizontal basis, they did something really bad.
Okay.
So when I got in the business, facility fees were in an ambulatory surgery center or in a hospital. 2 different fee schedules, but that was what facility fees were for. Today, and I'm not picking on them, right? But let's just say a nonprofit health system that's right here down the street, right? Here in Dallas, Texas. I don't want to say their name because that always gets me in trouble. They now take over a clinic, let's say here in Frisco or in Prosper or McKinney, just a clinic, and they own the primary care.
Okay.
They can now, today, put a facility fee on that. So instead of you and I paying $65 to see a primary care doc, now we're paying $65 plus another $125 for the facility fee. So when you look back at what CMS has done since 2010, CMS said, what we really want is we don't want any independent physicians. What we want is to consolidate the business. And when we consolidate the business, then we'll just have to contract with health systems, which that'll be all banker run because physicians can't own these health systems. They can't have any ownership in them whatsoever because, of course, they're greedy, bad people, criminals. If you just kind of think about it for 2 seconds, they're legitimately calling them criminals because they said, well, they'll cherry pick patients and only take the best ones for themselves that are the most profitable. And I'm like, show me one physician in the country. I've only been doing this since 1997, so there's lots of people who know more than I do. Show me one physician that even knows what the price is of their procedure. Like, you're like, hey, give me a 27447, doc. What's the price on that? They're like, look at you like, what?
Yeah.
Huh? They don't know the price of anything. They don't know cost accounting. They don't know tax. They don't know anything. And so I'm like, well, CMS, why do you do that? And of course, I've asked them a bunch. I mean, that's what I do in Washington, D.C. is I try to have nice conversations with them and ask them. And they don't have good answers other than to say, this is what's best in the best interest of the United States government, which they didn't say the best interest of the American people.
Yeah.
But the best interest of the United States government. And so that's really what's led to the consolidation, because when you get paid on the Medicare side, let's just pick on hospital outpatient department versus ambulatory surgery center. Those are the same buildings with the same requirements.
Okay.
In an HOPD, you're paid 165% more than you are in an ASC for nothing.
Yep.
So if you're an employer, you go, wait a minute, I'm paying more because it has a health system logo on it? Like, why is that? Because if you remember this from 10 or 15 years ago, you used to be able to go to a dealership in Texas, and if the price was 4% lower in Oklahoma, I mean, people drive up Central, 75, and they just go to Oklahoma. I would see this all the time in California. People go to Nevada and buy a car. And they go, what's 12% less to buy a Honda Civic? Like, if you buy in San Francisco, where I lived, or you buy in Las Vegas, it's a 12% difference. Well, I don't care who you are. On a $30,000 car, 12% makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So they just go, I'll just get on a plane, drive to Vegas, and then I'll drive back. And that'll be how I do it. You can't have arbitrage like that in a system and then expect people to survive.
Yeah.
So the other arbitrage is really, these are more technical, is like 340B. We hear about it all the time. It's close to $55 billion that we give to the top 25 health systems, just top 25, not top 50, top 25 health systems, that we don't give to independents.
55 billion.
Yes, last year.
Yeah.
There's about 130 billion, like I actually did a whole white paper on it. There's about $130 billion that we give nonprofit health systems that we don't give to private practice, which in my capitalistic free market mind, I don't understand, because I'm like, wait, so a doctor wants to open a hospital in Frisco, wants to compete, put his private capital at risk, but we'd rather use taxpayer money to subsidize something. Like, no, why don't we just let the guy take his own risk? And like, why do we need to be in that business at all? And then what's happening to these docs? Well, because they can't own the hospitals, they're out. And so we're seeing more physicians retire. We're seeing more physicians choose other jobs coming out of med school. And so this is going to be like, this is a problem for us in the fully insured space, self-funded space, work comp space, like whatever space of insurance we're in, this is an issue for us because supply is going down.
Yep.
And then we're going to have issues like we have in North Carolina, where the health systems, right? North Carolina is a certificate of need state, meaning you have to ask the governor for permission to build anything. You're not going to get to build anything. They've been fighting, independent docs have been fighting in North Carolina for more than 10 years. I'm part of that fight. Now what large guys did, there's 4 large health systems and one primary carrier. The state actually picked a different carrier this year to try to see if they could offset some of their expenses. I'm like, but the state could just get rid of certificate of need and that would like alleviate the problem. What we're seeing in that state is they're saying, well, let's change the rules for foreign doctors. So now you've got the issue. This is what the state of North Carolina tried to do. They tried to let in HB1 visa doctors who meet certain criteria, but not all the criteria that we have in the United States. So we've reduced supply, and now what we're going to do is we're going to find the best people from around the world. By the way, these people are not dumb. They're all brilliant people. In order to be a physician in a West African country or in Asia, you literally have to be the top of the top. These are not dumb people. I don't have an issue with that. My issue is, let's say my kid just got into Duke Medical School. I now paid $600,000, $700,000 to put her all the way through school. And when she comes out next year or the year after, now I have to compete with someone who has zero debt, no problems, did no investments, because they're brilliant in their country and their country paid for it.
Yeah.
That, like, all of that is leading...
an absurdly disadvantaged playing field for American citizens, like to an insane degree, to hear you just describe that. And that's a specific use case, right? In a specific state. But I think that's a microcosm of what a lot of is happening broadly across the United States right now, where it's like you see, and this is probably getting off track, but you see a lot of like STEM graduates are sort of under, what we would say, like underemployed, if you will, or something like 60 to 70% of STEM graduates in the United States don't even go into the field of STEM because they can't find a job. And what you're describing with doctors, I think, is also happening in STEM, where you're importing competition for the American citizens, and they're having difficulty finding work in their field of choice that they paid a lot of money for, and they end up going doing something different instead. And it's like you start to look at those things and go, is that really what we want happening for our country?
Yeah, well, we don't.
We don't, right? And in healthcare, it's obviously happening in healthcare as well. But Dutch, I just realized this, 30 minutes into the show?
Yeah.
We didn't really introduce you at all.
Well, I didn't think about it.
I didn't think about it either.
I'm enjoying my coffee.
I know, and I loved it too, but I was like, man, we didn't even say Dutch Rojas. You know? Hey, welcome to the show. But I'm glad we didn't. But I think it would be useful because we just had some really fascinating conversation. Yeah. But we didn't get your background at all. We didn't get who you are. And I would be remiss if we didn't give you a chance to do that just for a second, because there might be people listening going, wow, who is this guy? I haven't heard of him before. I would like you to get a chance just to give us real quick a bio of who you are. Yeah. Man.
Well, let's see. I was born, I just turned 50.
Yeah, congrats.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's my birthday today, literally.
I love
which
it.
is kind of crazy.
I
43.
I'm blown away that you would do a podcast on your birthday, but thank you.
Well, people always ask me, like, what are you doing for your birthday? I'm just working. I mean, like, working. Maybe I'll go to dinner with my wife and kids. They want to take me out, but I mean, I'm not, like, taking the day off or anything.
I think for the big birthdays, like
50 I would. Or 50, and I did it for 40. I don't know if I took a day off, but my wife did a huge surprise party for me for 40. 43 is one of those like milestones.
I was like, eh. But it is an important day.
But it's a mile marker you drive by and you go, oh yeah, I didn't realize, I didn't even notice it. I'm 43 today. Cool. All right.
That's a pretty special day.
Yeah.
Do you smoke cigars?
I do on occasion. Yeah. I actually inherited some from my wife's father. We have a box of like dozens. And I don't even know if they're like any good too. That's the bad part. It's like I smoked a couple and go, I think that's a good cigar, but was it a $100 cigar? Was it a $5 cigar? I don't know.
Bro, most of the really good cigars are like $10 to $12.
Yeah. Well, I went to a cigar lounge up in Salina, and I walk in and go, hey, I don't know much about cigars. Here's kind of what I like. Don't show me the $100 ones. Just tell me what I should smoke. And he goes, well, this one's like $12 and it's fantastic. I go, okay.
There's not very many $100 cigars.
Well, and I'm just probably throwing a number out there.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell the difference. Same as like if you give me a really nice bottle of wine or a $20 bottle of wine, I'm going to go, hey, that's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. I'm not a connoisseur. I'm not sophisticated in my palates. Are you a cigar smoker though?
Oh, I mean, like I'm a cigar smoker.
Oh, so like is this a daily thing?
It is. Or? 100%. I already had one this morning.
Oh.
It is.
Wait, does he do this with like espresso? Like,
oh yeah.
See, that's the European in you because you're Dutch, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I feel like that's something Europeans do. I don't know. Do Americans smoke cigars and have espresso?
Well, the guys I met with this morning at 6:30 did.
Dude, that's awesome.
Know, there's a group of guys here in Dallas that I get together with when I'm in town.
Okay.
And they smoke in the mornings. They start at 6. There's some old guys that start at 5:30 because they can't sleep. You know, they're getting up to pee every 8 minutes,
fair enough,
right? And they're like, "Oh, you're 50. Just wait till you get to 60." And I'm like, "Okay, ease up on that. You know, we're not there yet. That's a decade from now."
Well, you're talking to a 43-year-old that just took 2 preemptive pees before the podcast, so I'm there with you, man. But I mean, that's like a man's man thing to do. Like wake up and smoke a cigar. Like I'm kind of impressed.
There's cigars that are made for early hours.
Okay.
Like you don't start with some big like no.
Oh wait, so there's literally like a category of like a morning cigar.
Yeah, they're called Connecticut's.
Okay.
Made in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And they're light, they're smooth, they're airy. Yeah, they're really easy. And you just stopped taking nicotine.
Yeah,
you said.
the Zyn pouches.
Yeah. I do the Alps.
Dude, I love Alp, by the way.
But I can't do, like, some guys tried to get me into 6s and 9s. I'm like,
I stayed at the 3s the whole time.
I'm a 3 guy.
Yeah.
And I do it like, I might do it once a day. I'm not really. But I would say I'm addicted to cigars. I'm not addicted to coffee. But cigars, for sure. I have a cup of tea in the morning. I'm from the Netherlands.
Yeah.
We drink tea first thing in the morning.
That's a habit I'll never understand. Like tea.
Yeah.
I can't do the tea. Like
I think if you grew up that way, right?
I may be sure, but I every time I have tea, I'm like, ugh. It's so gross.
So the Dutch people literally still today, and the English do as well, because I went to school in England, at 10 o'clock, you break till 10:15, and you have a coffee break.
Okay.
So whether you're raising children at home, you and your friends will stop working at 10 and have a coffee break to 10:15, or you're at the office, you will stop at 10, break to 10:15. This is like a cultural thing that all Dutch people do.
I love that.
Right? And everybody knows 9:59, hey, time for tea.
Cool.
Or coffee.
Yeah.
So when you're young, before you're probably 6 or 7, your parents give you tea. They drink coffee between 10 and 10:15. I think when I was 6 or 7, I got my first cup of coffee. Yeah.
6 or 7.
Yeah. No, we're early. Dude, the Dutch start early.
I was to say, like,
how do you think they stay so skinny? Like, I'm skinny, but I'm not.
I thought it was just because they're always walking and riding bicycles.
That too.
Because I don't know.
And smoking cigarettes.
And smoking cigarettes by the time they're 12, right? Or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
Chronic health issues, surprise out-of-network medical bills, inflated medical and prescription drug prices. These issues cost self-insured employers hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Add to this the rising cost of care and potential for waste across the life of a claim, and it's clear that self-insured employers need innovative solutions that lower their health plan spend. At Valence, we've done just that, developed innovation that shifts the current paradigm. A complete and integrated ecosystem solution driven by data, one that manages and simplifies the complexity of medical claim costs. It is through analyzing millions of data points that we enable employers to realize and fuel cost-saving solutions. Valence experts come prepared from day one, targeting the fraction of claims that will drive the majority of health plan costs. That is how our team lives the Valence promise, engaging early and often for smarter, better, faster healthcare.
My next question for you, and I'll go and ask you, was like, well, how the heck did you get into healthcare to where now you're mastering and you understand ambulatory surgical centers and the problems with CMS? I mean, you're describing a guy that's from the Netherlands, goes to Oral Roberts University in Tulsa to play soccer, goes into the Marines, finishes at Oral Roberts. Where does healthcare come into the fold for you in your timeline?
Oh, I think like every story, it's just like, it just kind of happens.
Okay.
You know, I remember thinking like, I want to do this and I want to do that. How did those guys get into that, you know? And it's always like, well, it was just a series of events. And so for me, it was, I lived in New York City. I worked for a big consulting company. I was really terrible as a consultant. Like, you had to sit in a cubicle and you had to fly places. Yeah. And then you had to sit there and do analysis. And if you've known me for more than 10 minutes, you know, like, I'm not doing that. But it paid really well when I graduated. And I was like, and New York City at that time reminds me a lot of Rotterdam. Okay. And I was from a little town called Hellevoetsluis, just outside of Rotterdam. And I loved it. Like, when I got to New York City, all the times I visited as a young person, I was like, this feels like home. The cobblestone streets in the West Village and Soho and the meatpacking district, like, that all made me feel like, oh, I'm not in a foreign country, I'm home. And so I love living in New York City. I worked for a consulting company. Then I started working for a REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust. And that Real Estate Investment Trust was in medical facilities. So my job was acquisition and disposition analysis. Very boring job. Like, hey, Spencer, let's you and I partner up with some docs. Let's buy this piece of land over here. And back then they could own hospitals. Okay. Right? So it was hospitals, ambulatory surgery centers, radiology sites, nursing homes, all medical, right? And so, like, hey, let's buy this piece of land. What's it going to cost us? What's the cost of construction and the investment? What's the weighted average cost of capital? In other words, like, how much money do we need at what stages? And then what's the investor appetite to invest in that? How do we do a sale and lease back, right? And then how do we exit? And is this a 3-year project, a 5-year project, or a 7-year project? That's the very basics of acquisition and disposition analysis. And I did that work for a REIT. And then they started sending me out on site. And so I started meeting architects and contractors. And I found all of this completely fascinating, right? Because I was learning healthcare on the other side. Yeah. Like, I never did any construction, right? I'll make the mistake, and I used to do it early on, of saying, like, I helped develop over 200 ambulatory surgery centers and hospitals. Well, yeah, but my part was the math. My part was the accounting. My part was standing up in front of investor groups of doctors and saying, we're building this with this group of doctors. If you want in, here's how much investment you need. I never was like, oh, well, you need a steel 2x4. And that's not... Like, no. Same. Right? Yeah. And so I got into that business, and a bunch of doctors just started reaching out, probably like they do for you and I on our podcast, right? Like, hey, I'd really like to know more about this because I heard about you through this. Yep. And so I started meeting these doctors. They were mostly orthopedic surgeons. And they're like, you're 24 years old, 25. You kind of have a knack for that. Like, why don't you come help us? And then I did that for 4 years, and I loved it. And I had my first exit through that. I was a very small owner. Got a check for over $1 million, and remember thinking, like, holy crap. I mean, that is a life-changing moment in your early 30s. And being like, okay.
What do I do now?
Yeah, like, I hit the goal. Like, I could put this in an annuity and get 60 grand a year. And like, bro, I'm retired. You know, I'm like, what? Of course, my rent in New York City was pretty expensive. But I think that really was kind of like where I realized, like, okay, I think I'm a healthcare guy. I know about DRGs. I know about CPT codes. I'd learned the basics of that piece of the business. I ended up kind of consulting for a couple of those ambulatory surgery centers. And what I did was in 2008, I started my direct contracting company. Okay. And I had no idea. Like, I say I founded it then, and I did, but I didn't know what I was doing. And all I did was start calling the guys who I knew.
But what interests you in direct contracting? You don't just accidentally start a direct contracting company, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the business group on health in San Francisco, one of the guys was affiliated with Lowe's, the Home Depot competitor.
Yeah.
And
Poor Lowe's, they're the Home Depot competitor.
Yeah. And he reached out and he called my old office and he's like, hey, I want to talk to this young guy, Dutch. And he's like, I saw you speak at a conference. It was a construction development conference. And he's like, I think you got some things wrong and you're a young guy, so I just want to help you out. And I've never been offended by direct feedback. You and I talked about that at breakfast. I really like it. Like, I want people to be like, you're so wrong. Oh my God, here's how you're wrong. Like, what I don't like is you're stupid or you need to go back to mowing lawns like all the Rojases in the world. Or like, I'm like, okay, well, there's some comedy to that. But like, if you're going to give me feedback, like, can you give me real feedback? Like, Dutch, you said X, Y, Z about self-funding. This is why you were wrong. Yeah. I'm like, do something to help me. Don't just tell me I'm a Mexican and I need to go back to doing lawns. Yeah. Like, don't do that because that doesn't help me. Give me constructive feedback.
Well, not to mention, it's actually, if you really think about it, if somebody's giving you sincere and constructive feedback or correcting something you said, they actually care about you.
They care about you.
Yeah, yeah. I got that feedback a couple years ago and I was doing a presentation and somebody I respect afterwards, rather than be like, oh, awesome job, great job, it tells you nothing. It's like, dude, what you're covering is really complex and you were somewhat powering through it. Why don't you just like slow down just a little bit on these parts because I think you run the risk of losing the audience. And I go, okay, that's really good feedback. Thank you. I'm just getting up on stage and kind of doing what I know to do and not considering where the audience is that I might be meeting. And so therefore I might be losing them. And if my pacing was too fast, then I might have just blown past them, right? And I got that right afterwards from somebody I really respect. And I go, that is a very good piece of information.
How many times has that happened to you where you got good feedback?
Like maybe one other time.
Yeah.
I mean, like sincerely to the point where I go, I wish more people would have the guts to do that. But I think they're almost scared to give you feedback that might be perceived as negative where they're going to hurt your feelings. So they won't do it instead.
Why do you think people are so defensive right away?
Ego, maybe? I don't know. If you're passionate about something, you love it so much, you might get blinded by it. And so therefore, if somebody like criticizes it, then they've hurt you rather than maybe something you do. And so they're worried about like straining a relationship. Will you take offense? Will you be mad? I don't really know the psychology of it. I give people constructive feedback when I think it's warranted. But I think there's also sometimes, Dutch, where you might, oh, well, that person's a CEO. I can't give them feedback. They're a CEO. Like, what are they going to think of me if I tell them, hey, you said or ah too much a little bit in your speech. Like, how are they going to perceive that? I almost get scared sometimes if there's a difference in the power dynamic or something like that.
I think this is a uniquely American trait.
You do? Okay.
So, yeah, in this little country of 12 to 14 million people where I'm from, they're very direct.
It's just to the point, right?
And one thing
so what is your perception then of why Americans struggle with feedback?
Okay, I'll tell you. So my wife and I had this struggle early on in our marriage where I would give her feedback and it sounded like criticism. Mm-hmm. Now, she was very patient. I mean, she is my bestie. Like, I am ride or die with her, right? Mm-hmm. We've been through 2 kids and life, and she would tell me that it came off cold. And Americans don't like that.
I see.
And I think the way that I grew up, like, I remember there was a year before I had a growth spurt, and I remember seeing my very favorite Aunt Willamine. I named my son after her son. And she said to me, Niels, you are fat. And she's like, Coach Sayers is not going to like it. Have you been training? Now, if you said that to an American person.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially how old were you at the time?
Oh, I was probably 13 or 14.
Yeah,
it's brutal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, immediately save space and offended. But Dutch culture is not a judgment culture. It's a data culture. Mm-hmm. It's here's information I know. And since you should assume that I want the best for you, because Dutch people make that assumption. Not always true, by the way, but as a general matter, they make that assumption in their communication. I want what's best for Spencer. I will give Spencer my advice. Mm-hmm. Whether he takes it or not, that's up to him. But it is my responsibility as a good Dutch person to give him that advice. Yeah. And so they do. And that is how I am. And I was that way for a long time. And then I slowly learned not to be that way.
Yeah.
Because too many people are like, that really hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And I got tired of hearing, oh, well, you know, like some excuse. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't really want your feedback on my feedback. I'm just giving it to you because you might need a data point to make yourself better.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's fair.
And so I just learned not to do it.
Yeah.
I don't do it anymore either. Unless
Really?
somebody
so,
says.
so you censor yourself now. To a degree.
Completely.
Really? Okay.
Completely. Unless, of course, they're a politician, which we talked about this morning. Yeah. Then I'm like, just let them have it.
They need to let them have it. Yeah.
I mean, they're getting millions. Well, whatever.
ClaimDoc is a medical claim auditing and member advocacy company. We provide fiduciary services to employer-sponsored benefit plans and allowing them to create an environment where we ensure that the benefit plans are being charged on a fair and reasonable basis.
My business is basically people, and it become a real simple transition. We thought it was going to be far more complex. I've saved, we'll say, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I could not say enough about ClaimDoc.
Citibank had me do a project for them where we evaluated their total joints. It was like a friend of a friend that got me this kind of one-off consulting project. And they were trying to understand, had no idea why they were paying less in Florida for knee replacements and hip replacements than they were in Chicago, than they were in Dallas, than they were in New York. And so there was kind of this, like in New York at the time, they were paying upwards of $100,000. But in Dallas, they were paying $55,000.
Okay.
And Chicago, they were paying almost $70,000. And they're like, we don't know. We're a bank. We're not in the business of healthcare. And so my friend Bert sent me this project. I got to work on it for a year. And that's where I really started, because we had claims data, utilization data, and it was coming to my little computer. And I was able to go, no one understands cost accounting. No one understands what we're doing. Can we build a system outside of it? That is also when I started meeting guys like now called Transcarent, then called Bridge Health. That's when I met the guys before Lantern was Surgery Plus. Before Surgery Plus, it was like Employee something, Surgery Plus. The guys that bought it before Thomas Dundon, who lives here in Dallas, bought it in 2000. I think he bought it in 2006 or 2007. So the guys that owned it before him, I met those guys. And everybody was trying to work on direct contracting. And it was really interesting. It was really new. Of course, in the meantime, I go to graduate school in England. I went to the Judge School of Business. I go to graduate school, and I start thinking about, I'm from the Netherlands, and I start thinking about tulips, and I start thinking about, I'd worked on the commodities market in the Netherlands on tulips. I'd done a bunch of projects. And I was like, could we do this for healthcare? Could we build a commodities exchange for healthcare based on what I've learned over the last year? And so that really just empowered me more to work on direct contracting. I was like, okay, direct contracting is, as it is, a present value contract, i.e., you and I can exchange it today. You want to pay me $400 cash for an MRI, I accept, right? That's a present value contract. A future value contract or a forward contract is next year, Dutch, I have 20 employees. We use 10 CTs and MRIs. I want to give you $1 and I want to lock in a price a year from now. And I want to be able to consume that. I want you to be ready and available to have it for me. I'm going to pay you for it. I agree. I'm going to pay you for it. We're going to contract. I'm going to take those. I thought by 2025, for sure, I would be a billionaire, maybe a trillionaire, and own the Commodities Exchange that changed the world. That's really where I was within direct contract. It's going to happen. I'm going to be a part of it. And today I'm building all like the underlying
let's
fuel for that. Yeah, it's fun.
Why did you think you'd be a trillionaire? Because it seemed so obvious right in your mind of what you're building.
Yeah.
Clearly, headwind, probably after headwind came your way that prevented it from reaching that scale.
I tried to raise 100 million. We got to 40.
Okay.
A bunch of guys in San Francisco were great. They helped. But that was a venture stack, not a financial stack. And we really needed more Chicago, New York investors. And I knew the healthcare guys, but I didn't know the investment banking guys. I still don't know. Like, that's big time legacy private equity investment banking guys. I didn't have the relationships for that.
Okay.
But I knew, like, by then Bitcoin had come out. This is 11. And I was like, and I was an early owner of Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Maybe I can get some of the Bitcoiners. So kind of, it's like, as an entrepreneur, you could just go down all these paths.
Yeah.
And some work and some don't. I mean, I met a bunch of great people, made a little money. Like, okay. But at the end of the day, I thought a commodities exchange does something amazing. It drives prices to what we'd call mean reversion or reversion to the mean. Like everything is all scattered out here, but once you start giving a price signal and value happens, and all of that then comes back. So in our Dallas example, we had a $50,000, $55,000 total joint. We had plus $100,000 in Manhattan. We had plus 70 in Chicago. Now guess what happens when the whole world is buying from a commodities exchange? Remember, every industry, the steel industry has a commodities exchange. Orange juice has a commodities exchange. Tulips in the Netherlands have a commodity. There are 319 commodities exchanges around the world. Currency, we trade everything except pharmaceuticals and medical treatments and services. There's a big reason for that. Maybe we'll talk about it today, maybe we won't. But the point being, like, I knew that if every employer actually got smart and said, oh, we're going to let the CFO handle our benefits, then we would win. I knew that we could win. I still think we can win. So I haven't lost just because it's taken more than a decade.
I actually agree pretty significantly with that premise. I've been asking this question over the last couple of months, especially as I started to get backwards connected with the sales process that we have, where you're talking to folks in HR, you're talking to CFOs. Like our sales process includes, like, we meet with the employer. And you start to realize a lot of the people that are making benefits decisions on behalf of employers are doing so with really limited understanding of how healthcare works. And they're doing so out of fear, meaning the folks in HR that have all the other things on their plate. I'm not diminishing their value. What I'm saying is I started to question, should they be the ones that gatekeep the healthcare decisions in organizations? And I've come to the conclusion that there's probably not the right person to actually be in charge, because especially when you get into self-funding and captives, in and out of them or whatever, it's a financial decision for the most part that comes with a member experience associated with it, which is where HR does get actively involved. But at the end of the day, you have to make a decision for your business. And we're talking about millions upon millions of dollars at stake in making the wrong decision. And I just don't know that we should just say, hey, you went to school and you studied HR administration and you had one single class on benefits and maybe you covered every single benefit under the sun. Now you're our expert and go decide whether a captive is right for us versus fully insured. I don't think that makes sense at all. So I do think the CFOs should treat it, or they should have a procurement committee of some sort where you have multiple people making this decision, but don't keep it at arm's length if you're running a business and say that's HR's problem, because it's the second or third largest item on their P&L. And if they're not scrutinizing it like they scrutinize everything else, I think they're making a big mistake.
I think I mentioned this at breakfast. I did 6 specialty conferences in the last 2 weeks where I spoke at derms, ortho, vascular surgery, ENT, and somebody else. And I'm not forgetting them, not on purpose, but, PHA, my favorite, by the way. I did a speech on co-opetition, meaning competition and cooperation together. I'm sure I stole it from somebody because my old mentor said that I took it from him. And then there's the other guy, Curtis, that I really like, and he did it in 2016 or 17. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I stole it from you guys, right? I give you all the credit. You guys are amazing, and I love you. But I wrote, Co-opetition is a new playbook for American business. Now, let me say this because we're on a podcast. I don't know all the compliance, and I'm not a lawyer. I advise that you hire a very expensive one and pay a lot of money and figure it out. But one of the key things I think about what you just said, it's magical, is I think we've set up people to fail.
Yes.
Like, I made the mistake early on, and I got some really great feedback from human resource people. I would attack them, and I would antagonize them. I go, you guys suck at this. Like, every time I talk to you guys suck at it. And I would, on LinkedIn, I would be like, HR sucks, right? Well, like, and I was doing it, one, to kind of get a rise out of people and get more engagement, but I was also doing it to have a conversation because I was so frustrated.
I get it. I get your frustration, though.
And then what happened was that morphed into me being an adult and saying, like, oh, Here's the problem. The problem is we've put the wrong person in the wrong position. Okay, well, let's explore that, right? And sometimes, I'm going to say often, the CFO is the wrong person. And so what the federal government does, and you already know, is like employers have to do this. This is part of, like, we pay sales tax and we process payroll tax. Like, that's our job. I mean, I have employees. Then I think, well, we've assigned the wrong job to the wrong person. So at the very beginning of the podcast, we talked about my little visits with all of these doctors after the sale. And I realized they're really good at the day-to-day management of physician practices, of surgery schedules. And when you talk to an administrator, they are world-class at most locations. Can't say all, but most locations. They're really good at saying, hey, doc, you have a surgery at 2 o'clock. When you get out of that at 2:30 or 2:45, you got to scrub in over here. You got to go across town and go to the hospital. You got to take care of this one. And like, they know that. But if you go to them, you and I go to them and say, hey, you guys own 12 surgery centers. Let us talk to you about some strategic solutions to turn those premiums from expenses into assets. We're going to show you how you can reduce your risk, reduce your premiums, right? We're going to turn it into a balance sheet item. That's just good.
Yeah.
And so what I realized in all these talks was they need someone in the middle to do that for them. So what I've asked our customers, our new customers at Blixen, hey, do you trust me after 20 years plus of doing business with you, getting you into direct contracts, getting you into forward contracts, helping you with benefits, property casualty, payroll, retirement. I'm even doing a power construction project for a couple of hospitals, power generation project. And I'm like, I've done all of that to reduce your expenses, increase your revenues. Will you trust me on this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think we are. So I think in the next, if probably the most important part of this little pod, besides you and I getting a chance to catch up, is I think the next 10 years, and this is not just healthcare, I think you're going to see manufacturers. I see it because I'm leading it in a bunch of churches. We've got 17 churches in this deal, and their schools. We put them in one property deal. We put them in one workers' comp group. We put them in one cybersecurity. And I just started taking them and piling them together. Now, with benefits, that takes real compliance work. You got to get, I mean, the legal bills for us were out of this world. Thankfully, someone shared them with me. But we were able to put some doctors together. We were able to put some schools together. So all we did, form a new company, and then say, okay, the tax ID for payroll, instead of you getting paid by XYZ church or XYZ school or XYZ orthopedic practice or XYZ neurosurgery practice, now you're getting paid by ABC company. And they're like, is that my employer? That employer is your employer for the purposes of employee benefits, retirement, all the lines of P&C, payroll. For those purposes, yes, this company is your employer.
Okay.
For other purposes like day-to-day management and who can fire you and tell you what to do and when to do and employee handbooks.
What do you call that structure then? Because you were saying it wasn't an association. Correct?
Well, it was an association. Some people and I don't like this, I'll talk a little bit about it and somebody will say, well, that's an MSO. And I'm like, it's not an MSO, you turd. The reason I don't like the MSO phrase is because in healthcare, which I'm mostly affiliated in healthcare, MSO means, we're all going to get the same EMR. We're all going to get the same revenue cycle management. And now what you've done is you've just taken a doctor who was ready to hear some changes for his practice get totally turned off. Because the last thing they want to hear is, it's going to cost me $2 million to do this deal. And I'm like, no, this is about the business of American business. This is not about the business of, I don't want to be involved in clinical work. I don't care about your EMR. I do not care. What I want to know is why there's 240 physician-owned hospitals around the country and why you guys don't all work together on property and casualty. You don't have to do it under one tax ID to come together for property and casualty. One of our mutual friends, Patrick, former Marine, right, who I love to death, he and I talked about this. I was like, hey man, why don't more of our employee benefits buddies get their P&C license? He's like, come on, bro. He's like, that's hard. And I'm like, yeah, it's hard. However, there are manufacturers we help in West Texas, right? I was talking to Brown the other day. I'm like, there's nothing but manufacturers. I moved to Oklahoma 4 years ago, last month, 4 years ago. And I started meeting, like, there's 190 manufacturing operations in Oklahoma. Well, I met with 6 of them, and I was like, co-opetition is the playbook for American business. And they're like, tell us more.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, why are you competing on employee benefits? Like, do you compete on who you get natural gas from? Because they'll say, well, I don't want to help that guy reduce his expenses. And I'm like, well, but you drive a car and he drives a car to work. You get gas from ONG, Oklahoma Natural Gas. You get electricity from AEP. Do you care that the other orthopedic surgeon gets his electricity from AEP? Like, we have to fight back. The best way to do that is to totally reduce expenses and increase revenues.
Yeah.
Right? And so now you got churches, now you got healthcare involved, now you got some manufacturing. There's people, professional business people like, oh, I can't believe you got into manufacturing. It's so complex and so difficult. And I'm like, yeah, guess what? When it's complex and difficult, guess what? We get to be disruptive.
Opportunity, yeah.
Yeah, now it's slow, but I think your point, and I think you said it incredibly well, is are HR people trained and taught to do it right? Are CFOs trained? And I think the answer is no.
Yeah.
And I think the new 10 years, like just like direct contracting was new, just like the forward contracts that I sold to a bunch of people were new, I think the next stage of American capitalism includes co-opetition.
Okay.
And it's going to sit at the center. And instead of, right now, like brokers and consultants in my world, they fight with each other and they go, oh, I had this pet business and now you have it and now I don't like you. And I'm going like, in our business, the way that we set up the employee benefits, again, I'm not a licensed benefits broker, right? Not licensed. I help with the marketing side. I look at those guys and I go, because they're all licensed in 50 states, I go, look, why can't we, if we're going to tell health systems and doctors and teachers and pastors and rabbis to all cooperate, why aren't we cooperating? Mm-hmm. Like, why can't we co-broke 200 deals together instead of, no, this is my, you know what I mean? Let me go to this new mastermind and this is my business.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's the way. And so what's happened, the way that we ended up with this large pool of lives is I reached out to a bunch of the consultants that you and I both know, that I've known for more than a decade. And I was like, hey, I have a product. Mm-hmm. You don't have to figure out the PBM. You don't have to figure out the direct contracting. You don't have to figure out all the reinsurance and all this stuff. Would you take a look at it? And if you like it, here's where I think the opportunity is. Yeah. And that happened, and then it went through the roof.
Yep.
And it's because I'm saying, like, you don't have to get all $200 from this customer. If you get $20 from this customer, and we help a bunch of American businesses reduce their expenses overall, haven't we done our job?
Yeah.
Like, the one thing I love about all these consultants, and I'm talking about all the guys at Health Rosetta, all these, you know, the young guys that we kind of came up with on social media, that whole group. And I don't talk to these guys every day, but, you know, a few times a year, we all see each other. Every one of those guys is mission driven. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they go, I just want to help. Mm-hmm. I just want to be of use. God, please let me use me.
Yeah.
I want to have an impact on my community. And I think the impact isn't, well, I win this business this year and I got it for a year and then someone takes it from me and then I got these 2 businesses and then someone takes it from me. And I would rather be like, hey, Spencer, can we cooperate?
Pareto Health is the largest benefits captive in the United States. With nearly 3,000 captive members, $1.3 billion of stop-loss premium in force, and almost 1 million covered lives, no other benefits captive comes close to Pareto Health's scale. But it's not just about the numbers. Pareto Health is a mission-driven organization, and that mission has 2 distinct parts. Number 1, to make self-insurance simple and more accessible for small to mid-sized employers. And number 2, to arm them with the most powerful cost management tools on the market. So if you're an employer frustrated with your healthcare outcomes, or you're a benefits consultant looking for an alternative to the status quo, it's time to consider Pareto Health. Pareto Health, where employers come to do self-insurance right, to do it easily, and to do it at scale.
Well, what I like about that too is the co-opetition. I know we probably got to wrap soon, but I'm seeing that cooperation amongst what you would perceive competitors to be, like you just described, with consultants and brokers, like being very like, this is mine. They got their elbows up. The reality is I've been very pleasantly surprised over the last couple of years how forthcoming, at least the people in my circle are, to go help another consultant
100%.
or take a phone call and just talk and share ideas or show up at events. They're sharing their playbook almost with other consultants, whereas in the past, I would perceive that as like, there's no way in hell somebody would do that.
No.
And for whatever reason, it seems to be the sentiment is like, if we actually want to solve this thing, this big complex thing we call healthcare, we can't do it in silos where individuals are trying to do it themselves, because the reality is one person or one agency can only reach so many employers by themselves. You have to share those ideas. And for me, it's that idea of a rising tide. So if you're sharing the ideas and the baseline continues to rise and everybody's playing from here and then up, rather than hoarding information where only a few people get to know it, I think that's actually bad for the industry, that's bad for our economy, that's bad for the country. So the more sharing and the cooperation like you're describing, the better. It doesn't mean you don't compete. It just means you're a lot more open about what you're doing so that other people can operate, I would say, in the same playing field as you.
Well, I think about it this way. I'm like, look, we can put a pool of 5,000 employees together and have 5 brokers on it, and we can all do well. Mm-hmm. Or we can continue to not do that, and we can be where we are. But I think 5 different advisors on one large group is really beneficial, because now they get the best of all 5.
Yeah.
And when I think the best of all 5 on our LinkedIn friends, I go, these are great people.
These are fantastic people.
And they have deep insights.
Yeah.
And all of them have a little variance of specialty, even within the self-funding world. And you, Mr. CEO, or a group of CEOs, your employees are going to be better off with these 5 or these 7.
Not to mention you
than
get some counter arguments, so you don't get too myopic in your thinking. Go, no, this is the answer, and you don't get a counterpoint at all that gets entertained.
That's right.
That might stop you from rushing into something that's actually not in the best interest of the employer. The committee kind of idea that you're describing seems to make sense, because you're probably going to come to the consensus best answer, even if there's some disagreement amongst the council or committee themselves. So why don't we do this, Dutch? Like, where do we go from here? You talked about Blixen a little bit, but I think you have this very pie in the sky idea of what can, and I don't mean that to be demeaning, but it's like,
no, it is a dreamer's dream,
it's
right?
a dreamer's dream, because we know this is a $4.5, call it $5 trillion industry with a lot of lobbying, a lot of what I would say perverse incentives that exist. But we still both have the belief that it's solvable to a degree, or
completely.
Components of it.
Yeah.
So if you want to spend the last maybe 5 or so minutes of this episode, let's talk about what is this vision that you have for the future, and what is the real corrective action that you're trying to take so the industry gets better?
Well, I think there's kind of 4 stages. One, I think more physicians need to get involved in policy. I think the PHA is a great association to do that with. That's Physician-Led Healthcare for America. They're really focused on 3 things: site-neutral payments, certificate of need, and physician-owned hospital moratorium removal. Like, more supply equals lower prices, right? I think that's a big deal. I think that co-opetition is a massive move, and I think it's the right place at the right time. It's where I'm putting most of my time.
Okay.
And so, like, when I talk to these medical specialties, that's what I'm talking to them. I'm saying, like, look, there's 5,000 of you at this conference. You're all XYZ specialty. The captive opportunity for you, right? Which you know way more about than I do, but you understand captives soup to nuts. The captive opportunity for you is expenses, premiums, into contributions and assets, right? And it's a beautiful conversation. And then they go, right? And I go, if all of you were in a med-mal captive together, here's what would happen. Like, here's how it benefits all of you, not in 1 year or 2, but in 5, 7, and 10. Here's how it benefits you. The independent physician practices are making a transition from being lemonade stand businesses, and I mean that authentically. They are partnerships, so they take money that they make every quarter and they distribute it. Okay, that's not how you build an enterprise. It's not how you build a business. It's not how you sell. You take retained earnings, you invest those earnings, right? You invest it into research and development, new employees, new tech, new whatever. And so we're seeing a wholesale change on the physician supply side where that's happening. Okay. And I want to kind of continue to push independent practice generates better outcomes at a higher quality and lower price, right? So I think Blixum has to do with that. And then, of course, I'm involved with FICAP Fund, which is a venture capital company for physicians and allied healthcare professionals, meaning we have a ton of nurse practitioners, physician assistants, we have PTs. I mean, like, I love all of those people, and they play a vital part of making healthcare affordable and accessible for all. I think Blixum, it's almost a year old. It's done really well. I think in 2 years, we'll go from 10,000 to maybe 25 or 30,000. And I think my goal is to get every single benefits broker friend I've ever had involved.
Yeah.
And somehow figure out how they can take advantage of the P&C side. Because the number one conversation I have with those guys is, Dutch, I've already got my own solution for employee benefits, which I'm like, okay, great. Like, I'll continue to send you people. I do all the time. What are you doing with your property and casualty? Like, would you let our team, because obviously I market for them, I get paid for them, and I'm happy to, I'm like, will you give us a shot at it? Because they don't go after that. They do a really good job on employee benefits, but I'm like, but there's property, there's work comp, there's general liability, there's cyber, there's like just a list of stuff. So I'm like, let us have a chance at it. And then I just think, I'm privileged at my age to be able to do kind of a plethora of oversight things, right? So like, I'm running Blixum 80% of the time. I'm in Washington doing PHA and then what I would call Rojas media work. And then I get to do what you get to do. You're way better at it than I am.
I don't know, man. You're pretty good at this.
But I get to do the podcast a couple nights a week. And I think at the end of the day, I think you reflect. I don't think I'm naturally a reflective person, but when I got close to 50, my birthday's in September. So when I got close to 50, like I started having all these thoughts like, what am I going to do with the next 30 or 40 years? Like these are deeply impactful. Like how am I, like my life's dream is to make healthcare affordable and accessible for everyone everywhere, not just in the United States. Right? I'm sure you and I will talk about it in the future, but like I love going on mission trips. And all I do, I don't talk about anything religious. All we do is set up surgery centers in the summer, and then we invite doctors to come to those surgery centers, and then we get patients.
That's cool.
And they come out of everywhere, and now we're in 7 countries. And I'm like, this is life. This is what makes life beautiful. But what do we do in the meantime, right, to get there?
Yeah.
And I think through Blixum, I'm working on lowering premiums. I think the debt of the country is a big problem. Like I love the All In podcast, and I always hear them say the debt, the debt, the debt. And I hear the Republicans, the debt, the debt. And I'm like, I don't think it's the debt. I think the number one thing ailing families in America today is the high premiums. And so I'm like, can we bring those down?
Yeah.
Can we bring them down by half? Because I can't solve the policy problem yet of like getting to back to catastrophic plans. I can't do that. That's not within the bounds of the law. But what if my risk pool is 1 million people? How low can really smart people, like I can get the people, but the professionals have to do the work.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Well, I want to do this, Dutch, so I usually give the floor for my guests just closing thoughts. Like you can summarize. We had a really...
I feel like we did a really good job of that.
Subject matter podcast, which I think is awesome. And probably is it the longest one we've done? How long is this? Hour 20, it's probably
Hour 20? That's good.
But I feel like if we didn't have the constraint of leaving this room, we could probably spend another hour just chatting. But
it'd be worse if we had a cigar.
Oh, it'd be actually kind of be better now. You kind of made me think about wanting to have one. Did they do them over lunch? I don't know. But Dutch, you get a chance to the floor is yours, man. Whatever you want to say, whether it's a call to action, whether it's just a summary of the show, whether it's whatever, your thoughts. Yeah, you can take us away before we close. I'll turn it to you.
Look, I think I've said a lot of the really heart impactful things. The call to action, I think for your audience is get on social media, right? Like get your iPhone out. There's plenty of teleprompters, and the teleprompters will do an AI script. Like if you're like the basics of self-funding, the AI script will kind of do it for you, and just get brave and get on it. Because The one thing that DC reacts to is social media and letters and emails and phone calls. And I think that social media is something, most doctors don't do it. Most consultants and brokers don't do it. They're busy doing their work. But this is the age over the next 10 years where media will take over everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you're in it. That's why I'm in it, because I think it's the loudest. Like, I mean, I was at a meeting in Reston, Virginia, which is just outside DC, and the venture company I work for was there with us. We were doing a venture presentation, and we got a call from a sitting senator saying, hey, I need to get a hold of Dutch Rojas. And I'm like, wait a minute, you called the venture place in San Francisco to get a hold of me? Like, I'm on social media. You can just send me a message. And they'd sent me a LinkedIn message, of course, which I didn't read because I don't know. Do you read yours?
I try to read them if it seems like it's obviously coming from a person that's like a real message and not like, hey, here's how you outsource your leads to AI or whatever. Then I just ignore those. But I try to. LinkedIn is the one platform I try to be accessible to people intentionally. So I usually at least go, oh, that's a real message. I should respond or ignore. You know,
I'm still trying to figure out how to do that.
Well, you show me the 2,000 or whatever you get on X. Like I don't go through 2,000 messages. I'll tell you that right now. Yeah, it's impossible.
So I think in closing, my one encouragement item to all physicians, especially independents, but certainly the employed ones, and then our broker and consultant friends. That's our community, right? This is certainly mine, certainly yours. That's the community that I serve, and that's the community I love. And I'm like, get on social media, do videos, do text. And I don't care if you use something like Buffer or whatever can do the auto planning. Like Buffer's $9, which is, I'm cheap, so that's what I use. But you could literally say at 6 o'clock every morning, and you could write those 10 on a Sunday, and then you don't have to look at it at all. But like, if you just get used to the tempo of social media, that is how you're going to win. You'll attract clients, and you'll attract the ones you want. You'll curate your audience.
Well, dude, I had lunch with somebody the other day, and she was saying, as a mutual buddy of ours, and they were sort of trading like stories of like, well, how much revenue did you generate this year from LinkedIn? How many clients did you source directly from LinkedIn content? And it was like a substantial portion of their
big number,
year,
bro.
To where they were almost testing like, oh, this is working, right? Yeah, did it work? Yeah, it worked for me. And the reality is it can work for a lot of people if they're just willing to do it. And so I couldn't agree more with your call to action there.
I feel like sometimes we have to have a LinkedIn group that just teaches this class.
Yeah.
Because I'm happy to teach. Like, I don't want to be alone. I don't want people to go, well, we just, like, for healthcare, we talk to Dutch, right? Or for benefits, we talk to these guys. Or for captives, we talk to the. I'm like, no, like, I'm happy to teach it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's super important to get your message out. And this is the only way that you can. You don't have to join a fancy country club anymore.
No.
You don't have to be a part of some big group. You and the camera can just have a conversation, and you can win. It takes time. How long did it take you, really?
To get real good at this
Yeah,
stuff?
to where you were like, I'm kind of good at this.
A couple of years, probably. Yeah, honestly, a couple of years. And then you have somebody that's really good at it that takes it off my plate. But the actual producing really good content that I was proud of took years to do.
Years.
But not like, it wasn't like 8 hours a day. It was like, 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, but every single day doing it.
Yeah.
Or like you said, batching it on a Sunday and coming up with multiple ideas that you release the following week.
That's how I used to do it. When I first started, that's how I did it.
And that's not hard to do. It's just commitment to do it, man.
Dude, thank you for having me on, man.
Dude, thanks for coming.
This is
awesome.
great.